Welcome to Yakima Southwest Rotary, the
most awesomest club in the world.
All right, I have Lisa with invocation. Yep, you do, Lisa. Come on up, Lisa.
Apparently I didn't read the bulletin. All right, will you bow your heads with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for this day. Thank you for this area. Thank you for this community that we get to so generously serve. Lord, we just ask that as we go through this meeting today, that you guide our thoughts, you guide the speakers, and that we have a heart that continues to want to serve. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, I think, Dave, we're going to have, if you want to do introduction of guests.
Sure. Excuse me. Today we have joining us Jeff Scott from the Sunrise Club. Thank you, Jeff. And we have David Kirby. Here. And David is a member of the Boise Southwest Club. And then we, Curtis, you have a guest?
Yes, my wife Mary is here.
There we go. And Christine Gordon, her daughter Haley is here also.
Thanks, Dave. All right, some club announcements for you all. So today the board of directors had our monthly meeting. We had a number of grant and fund requests from different groups in the community. The board approved the following awards. So we awarded $3,000 to Camp Gormley for their ropes course. We approved $2,000 for the First Tee of Central Washington. This is for a kids' golf tournament that's being put on, so it's to supply a no-cost tournament to the kids that are a part of First Tee. Seasons Performance Hall for kids towards their jazz program and education program that they're doing at the Seasons Performance. Voices for Children for $1,000. Trail Seekers of Central Washington for $1,000. And then it was also recommended and approved an additional $200 for Sissy Strong Reyes and the work she's doing there with the tribe down there. So with that, that was pretty exciting to see. Just a great way to put our dollars that we raised from last year's auction into work into our community. So thank you. Birthdays. Joe Harlington just celebrated a birthday. Welcome back, Joe. Happy birthday. Jacob Butler has a birthday coming up, so happy birthday to you guys. Rotary service above self. Bob Knutson, 52 years of service in the community. Thank you, Bob. Jim Davis, I didn't know if I saw Jim here. Jim, 38 years of service. Wes Morris, 20 years of service. Chris Corey and Angie Sainsbury, 6 years of service. Thank you both. Some upcoming events that we have going on. Downtown is sponsoring, has an event this Thursday at 5:30 at the Yakima Valley Conference Center, just where we held our auction. That's at 5:30 this Thursday for a celebration of Juneteenth. The Molly Davis Scholarship Program is doing their award ceremony. I think they had 39 scholarships, somewhere in that ballpark, 39 scholarships that were awarded for the Molly Davis Scholarship. That's going to be next Tuesday at 5 p.m. on the 20th. We're still going to have our regular meeting here with Amanda McKinney, but if you'd like to go support the kids and the Rotary Trust, that'll be at 5 o'clock next Tuesday at the Conference Center as well. Okay? Let's see, what else do we have? We have the Dick Johnson Memorial Blood Drive, and that's coming up on the 23rd, 9 a.m. to 1:30. So if you can get signed up for that, you can scan the QR code. This is in our bulletin. Just realized I'm going to be out of town for work on that day. I can't make it. Molly Davis Golf Tournament, sponsored by the Rotary Trust and the Rotary Clubs of Yakima, is on July 17th. So with that, if you'd like to get signed up, I think, Josh, are you a contact or Taylor is a contact for registration? Otherwise, reach out directly to Robin Beckett, and you can RSVP to her. Okay. Okay, Tressa or Robin Beckett direct to get registered. So with that, I believe we have, let's see, I kind of had some Southwest Rotary Superstar announcements. So I'm going to try and plow through that while I'm digging for some stuff. Can you come up and make a little announcement about your pictures?
All right, so as you all know, we're starting to update our little blue Rotary book for next year. So Martin is doing photos against this lovely backdrop back here. So if you want your picture updated or you need your picture updated, please join us right after this meeting and line up over there, and Martin will take your picture. And there might be a few others of you that I have to corral for some additional information. But anyway, please, right after the meeting.
Gary Layton walk in? No, Gary. Okay. All right. So, I got a lot of shirts, and our club has a lot of Southwest Rotary Service superstars. So I'm going to get some of them out right now. Some of you that haven't gotten shirts yet, will you come see me after the Rotary Club so we're not standing up here for 30 minutes handing out shirts? So I'm going to call out some names, okay? You have done community service. You have been a vital member of our club and support and what you do. So with that, I'd like Kathy Backstrom to come up, Ryan Beckett to come up. Bruce Willis is not here. Some of these shirts, if you need a different size shirt, let me know. I have different sizes. Ryan Beckett, don't be bashful. Get up here. Get your shirt. Nope, you're not fine. George, could you come get a shirt for Kay? I got one for Kay Allen. Raquel, I have a shirt for you. I do, yeah. I'll switch your shirt out afterwards. You can exchange it. Here you go, George. Okay. Ryan's is a triple extra large. Raquel. Chris Corey has a shirt. Chris Corey, look at that. Everybody gets a shirt if Chris Corey's getting a shirt. Steve Pilger gets a shirt. Matt Reed gets a shirt. Come on up. Don't be bashful. Gib Vander Hayden gets a shirt. Yeah, you do. Josh Logston gets a shirt. We should be giving out swimming pools while I'm doing this. Everybody gets a swimming pool. All right. Matt Reed. Is Matt Reed here or not? Matt? Here's Matt's right here. Chris Corey. And then Gib Vander Hayden. Here, throw Gibbs at him. All right. I have shirts for the rest of you, but let's grab some after the meeting so that Frank Rowland can do his Sergeant of Arms he's got prepared. Frank, you have until 5 p.m., okay? All right. So with that, I'd like to bring Frank Rowland up to do Sergeant of Arms.
All right. Before I do Sergeant at Arms, I am the incoming chair of the Invocation Committee, which is currently standing at 1 member. So, if you would like to be exempt from fines today, all right, Chris, right here, okay. Anybody else? I'll even give you, okay. All right, Tony. I'll even throw in a free Happy Buck. Oh, right here. All right. All right. Anybody? Okay, thank you. I appreciate all of you who did that. So just a few days ago, our illustrious incoming president, Lynn, and her charming sidekick, Joe, just returned from Australia, having spent a week or so in Melbourne, attending our international convention. And so who else was there with you? Martin, yes. So, you're right. Thank you. Wow. What a roll. Okay. Do we have any happy bucks?
This is going to sound really strange, because I can't do this. I like challenges, and I like excitement and stress. I've been in this title business for 51 years, and I've got
Wow.
a solution I've never ran across before. I can't give you details. I'm still learning, and I was arguing with my underwriter in Seattle, and we have to call our underwriter in Texas, senior underwriter, and I was right.
All right. All right. To beat the underwriter, that is a good one. All right, Lynn and Joe.
So, I would like to give a happy $100 to the club.
Wow.
Obviously, you guys have sponsored us for Joe and I to get to have that opportunity to go to an international conference. I cannot say enough about it. I did not know that we were going to experience what we experienced. I learned about countries that I didn't even know existed. You watch the Olympics and you see that, but remember there's people that don't have representation at the Olympics, right? And the thing that probably hit me the hardest with this is that the exciting news is we're down to only 3 polio cases in the entire world. But the story of the people that talked about polio and the amount of people that have lost their lives trying to just get children vaccinated for polio. What was there, 86 individuals just trying to get vaccines because of religious beliefs. So the stories that were told, if you ever get an opportunity to go to an international conference, I highly recommend it. It will change your life.
Calvary in 2 years.
Yeah. Martin will be there, so whichever one you go to. Okay, Joe. That's good. That's good. Okay. Wow. Cool. Corday, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I've got a happy buck for the George Martin Award. I was honored with that last year, and I can't imagine anything greater for me to be than, of course, my wife saying yes when she married me, but to be honored by my friends and colleagues is really a big deal to me.
All right. Thanks, Corday. Any more? Right here, Josh.
I got a happy buck. Next week, of course, we have a meeting here. We also have the Molly Davis Scholarship Award Ceremony, and 2 of our members are going to help MC that. Raquel Acala and Richard Perez are going to help MC that event with those 40 students. So I got
Cool.
a happy buck for
All right. Thanks. Real quick. Okay.
Okay, I've got a happy buck for being here at my most favorite Rotary Club away from home. My work and work travel schedule has really limited my ability to attend either club, so I'm very happy about that. But I got 10
All right, congratulations.
The best part is my wife and I are going to retire sooner than later, which is the end of this month, and we're on our new journey.
Great. All right, real quick, shameless plugs. Okay, I'm going to fly through this so that I'll be on time. So anyway, today I thought we would test our knowledge of the land down under. So if you've not been to Australia, I think those of us who have highly recommend it. The food's great. The people are friendly. If you get to see a professional Aussie Rules football game, they're incredible. And even if you don't have any idea what's going on in one of those games, they're just super fun to watch. The beaches are beautiful. I could go on, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that. So I'm going to start at this table right here. This is the easiest question I've got, because then they're going to get sideways after this. What is the capital of Australia? For an extra $1, I'll give you Sydney? Sydney is not the correct answer. It's actually Canberra. So, all right. So, a couple bucks a piece there. Next table. Australia is both a country and a continent. However, it is split into how many states? I'll give you, for an extra buck, I'll give you some options. All right. 8, 4, 6, or 10. And remember, Australia is physically about the same size as the United States. It is 8. That'll be $3. All right. This table right here. True or false, oops. I wrote this wrong, but get it back. The Australian Alps get more snow than the Swiss Alps. Or do the Australian Alps really exist? So it's a two-part question. False. No, the answer is true. They do. They do get more snow than, and they do call them the Australian Alps, and they do get. Okay, where next group here? Where in Australia will you find the cleanest air in the world? For an extra buck, I'll give you 4 options. All right, the Great Barrier Reef, Darwin, Perth, or Hobart. You want those again? No, I just have this table here. Hobart in Tasmania, you are correct. It's equal to the South Pole in air. All right. Far back. Fraser Island on the Queensland coast is the largest of this kind of island in the world. For bonus points, what are you likely to spot on the island? For an extra $1, I will give you options. Okay. A, an atoll. B, a barrier island. C, a sand island. Or D, a tidal island. It is actually the largest sand island in the world. So if you want to take $1 off, what animal might you spot on that island? What's the what? What is it? It is actually the dingo dog. All right. Let me get this Cordays right here. Yeah, that dingo stole my baby. 80% of animals in Australia are unique to Australia. We all know about kangaroos, koalas, wallabies, platypus, Tasmanian devils, and all that kind of stuff. But which one of the following is not unique to Australia? And this one I'm not going to charge you extra because it's just too far out there. Okay, A, kukas. B, the eyelash leaf-tailed gecko, C, quolls, or D, enchidina? I'm sure I said that right, with the right accent. No, go ahead. The last one. Actually, it is the eye-leaf-tailed gecko. It's the only one not from there. So the cocos kind of look like a happy face cross between a wallaby and a teddy bear. The quolls look like a cross between a Tasmanian devil and a cat. And a echidna kind of looks like a cross between an anteater and a pineapple, or not a pineapple, a porcupine. Okay, this table right here. In 1902, Australia was the second to do this in the world. What was it? For an extra $1, I'll give you some hints. You want the extra buck? Okay. A, give women the right to vote. B, leave the British Commonwealth. C, create a national park. Or D, institute an endangered species law. 1902. You are correct. Second country to give women the right to vote. All right, the Australia Travelers table back here. Let's see how much you've been paying attention. And you'll appreciate this question. So many of you know that Australia has a vibrant wine industry with over 60 designated wine regions and a variety of different wines. How many liters of wine were produced in Australia in 2022? For $3, for an extra buck, I'll give you some options. But you were just at a winery, so you should know this. So you want the hints? Okay. A, 1.5 million liters. B, 78.3 million liters. C, 503.2 million liters. Or D, 1.3 billion liters. Which one? 3? It is actually 1.3 billion liters of wine a year. All right, so last question. Over to, wake Chris up there. Okay. Brisbane is a beautiful city on the central eastern coast at the south end of the Great Barrier Reef. It is known as a world-class surfing area, has the Broadwater, which is kind of like a Puget Sound, and has gambling casinos. It also sponsors this unique championship event. For an extra $1, I'll give you some options. Okay. I've got 1 minute that I see. Okay, I'll give you the hints. Kangaroo height and distance jumping championship, 1 kilometer platypus swimming championship, cockroach racing championship, or the wombat circle championship. You are correct. It is the cockroach. And that area is one of my favorite places. And I'll leave you with this. So if you were to visit a beach every day in Australia, it would take you 27 years to get every beach. That's verified by the internet.
Thanks, Frank. A couple of announcements I forgot to mention. I'm going to grab this real quick. We have a celebrity in our club that has a book, the Hank Heffernan book. and somebody was generous enough to purchase a book and donate it to the club. And so we're going to have this book set out so that you can peruse through it during our Rotary meeting. So everything you want to know about Hank and his life, here's the book. So I'll give this to Hank's table, but we'll pass this around during Rotary meetings going forward in the future. So thank you to that anonymous donor that took the time to purchase that book for our club. So, and then after our meeting, I have shirts for those that haven't gotten a shirt yet. Come up here and we'll get you a shirt, okay? So with that, I'd like to have Scott Sharp come up and introduce our speaker.
All right, I get the pleasure of introducing a couple guys that I like, but then they threw a curveball at me and brought 3 people. So, no, but they're from Sacred Road Ministries. They're over the hill, over at Tandem Ridge. And I just had the idea to have them come in, because not a lot of us think about what goes on the other side of the ridge. And they do some really, really good things with the Native Americans over there. The topic today is mentoring of Native youth and natives in transitional housing. And I'll introduce the two. So Chris is the founder of Sacred Road. This is Chris here. Put your hand up. Was ordained by the Pacific Northwest Presbytery in June 2008 with a background in teaching, coaching, and youth ministry. Chris now serves as team leader as well as pastor for the Hope Fellowship Church plant. And then Chuck here. Chuck and I have done some stuff with Young Life over the years. Having a background in graphic design, Chuck was surprised when his role with Sacred Road turned into that of youth ministry director. The small gathering of teenagers in 2009 has developed into a full-blown youth ministry reaching over 200 youth around our reservation. So with that, I'll hand it off to them. Here you go, guys.
Okay, if you take the laptop and all right, so we're going to show a little bit of video here in a minute. But thank you, Scott. Thank you guys for having us this evening. It's really neat to be here. As Scott said, we're with Sacred Road. We're over in White Swan, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight is something that happened last week. Sacred Road celebrated its 20th anniversary. Chris and his wife Mary moved out here from Birmingham, Alabama, in the June of 2003. So here we are, and I moved out here in the winter of 2009. And being from Tennessee, I prefer the summer than to the winter. Oh, all right. Anyway,
Make some noise. Bear with me.
Okay.
Try and do it quick.
Oh, you missed it. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Are we good to go?
I think so.
All right. So just a little bit about Sacred Road, a little bit about White Swan. White Swan is sort of in the middle of the reservation over there on the other side of the Tandem Ridge, and I'm going to scoot back this way. It's a pretty rough place, especially for the kids that we work with. Like Scott said, I'm the youth director, and I've been working with the teenagers there for about 14 years. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of addiction and abuse, drug abuse, and just a lot of hard things for children and teenagers to deal with, and really everybody to deal with. Unemployment is really high. Opportunities are really low. Most of the kids, we think somewhere between 80 and 90% of the kids that we work with are dealing with some form of abuse and or neglect. About 2/3 of them are living with folks that aren't their birth parents. Some of them are living with a single parent. Some of them are living with an auntie or a grandma. Another bunch is sort of just living couch surfing, I call it, where they're staying with one friend, and then they're moving on. They wear out their welcome. They move on to another house. And what Sacred Road does is we try to we have a couple of taglines, slogans. Is we try to love our first neighbors well. That's kind of we are a part of an organization. Our organization is part of the Presbyterian Church of America, and we feel really strongly that Jesus tells us to love our neighbors, and the Native Americans are the first neighbors that the church ran into when most of us or a lot of us came over from Europe and other places. So and what that looks like is really loving folks like family. And so what Sacred Road does specifically in the summer, I'm going to show just a snip of a video. The video is, if you see the time thing on it, it says it's 14 minutes. We're not going to watch all 14 minutes, just so you don't have to worry about that. But we host teams, summer mission teams every other week all through the summer. Last week we had our first week. We had teams from Birmingham, Tennessee, Washington. We had a team from Seattle and Mississippi, yeah. So we had folks, and what they do is they come and they work on homes, painting, roofing, fixing roofs, we're all cheap labor, so we're not doing electrical or plumbing unless we have somebody that's skilled in that. And we do that for mostly elders, so we try to kind of love grandmas and grandpas the way their family would. They take care of their home. In the afternoon, we have what we call Kids Club at two of the housing projects on the reservation. They're called Adams View Park and Totus Park. And we play kickball and do crafts and tell stories in these parks. And so we kind of love the kids just playing and loving on them and telling them Bible stories. And then some of the other things we do throughout the year is we have a church, Hope Fellowship Church, which is in White Swan. We meet every Sunday morning at 10:30. We have an after-school program during the school year for middle schoolers. Like I said, I'm the youth director, and we meet with our youth every Tuesday night, and then there's a sort of a subset of them, about a third of them we meet with discipleship groups on Thursday, and on alternate Thursdays we do discipleship groups in our Young Life meetings at the high school and the middle school. And what else do we do? We do a lot. But anyway, so what I wanted to do is just kind of show you, like I said, maybe a 3 or 4 minute snippet of this video, and it's from last week. It's the teams from Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, and Seattle, and a little bit. So what you're going to mostly see is the house we worked on for an elder, and you'll see some of her thoughts. So let me get that started. Hopefully this is going to work, right? So, oh yeah, great.
So much of my life I carried all this pain, concealing never made it go away. For 20-something years, it's all I could take. My heart collapsed and I heard a voice tell me, you will never have to feel this way. I promise you will never have to feel this way. Feel this way again. Your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increase in us we.
People have been driving by to go by slow, and they're looking, and As a matter of fact, they even went to my son and was asking me what was going on. And I told them that this church group was doing this for me. And I really love it and appreciate it. And thank the Creator.
We seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. Refuse to waste our lives. For you're our joy and prize. To see the captive hearts released. The hurt, the sick, the poor at peace. We lay down our lives for heaven's cause.
It's been an incredible privilege to see how Sacred Road is empowering and loving and challenging and giving opportunities for people, the Yakima people, to serve and to lead.
Show your mighty hand, heal our streets and land, set your church on fire, win this nation back, change the atmosphere, build your kingdom here, we pray. Unleash your kingdom's power, reaching the near and far. No force of hell can stop your beauty changing hearts. You made us for much more than this. Awake the kingdom seed in us. Fill us with the strength and love of Christ. We are your church. We are the home on earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there in the interest of time. If there's time at the end, I can put my laptop out here on the table, and anybody can come and watch it. You want to come disconnect? All right, great. So that was last week with the teams I told you about. We're going to do it all again starting Saturday with another team. The cool thing, and what I want to spend the rest of the time talking about next week, is we'll have the kids in our community will be finished with school. So we'll have some of our teenagers out there with these folks from all around the country helping us out and serving their community, which I was really excited to hear y'all talk about serving and stuff, because that's the big thing we talk about with our teenagers. I was also cool to see Gormley's name up there, because we do a lot of stuff over at Gormley too. So, but what I want to tell you specifically, just in the interest of time and everything, is this thing that happened last week. We had a party celebrating Chris and Mary, and Chris will come up here in a minute and talk to you a little bit about the future of what we're going to do. But I want to talk a little bit about where we came from and where we are in this little snapshot of what happened last Wednesday night. So we had a dinner to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Sacred Road, and we had big dinner and all kinds of cake and everything. And then we opened the microphone for folks to come up and say if they wanted to have anything to share. And it wasn't really planned for anyone to get up. It was just, it's something that, if you've been out in West Swan, when there's a public thing like that, you usually have the microphone open and they'll say the floor is open and folks can come and share. And so that's what we did. And I shared a little bit, and some of the other folks on staff and some of the people on the team came. And then, like I said, unplanned, a half dozen, I call them kids, they're not really kids anymore, but they all used to be in the youth group, so I call them kids. They all got up together, and they lined up at the mic, and they each shared a little bit about what was going on with them and what had happened. And I just want to tell you, give you kind of a snapshot of each one, because the really great thing that I've enjoyed and I think is meaningful at Sacred Road is that, you know, it was the 20th anniversary of Chris and Mary being there. I've been here 14 years, and so with these kids we've known, you see some of these kids coming into the church and they're 3 or 4 or 5 years old. You saw some of them coloring and playing, and then, you know, they grow up in the church, and when they get to 6th grade, that's kind of when we start them in youth group, and then and they, you know, they go through high school, and we're there walking with them and all that, and then they graduate, and really in just the last 4 or 5 years, they're some of them are sticking around and becoming part of our church, our community, our family. And so these half a dozen again kids got up, and I think did we hand out the pictures? Okay, so we've got pictures that if you want to pick them up at the end. And I just want to tell you a little bit about each one of them and what they said. The first one to talk about is a young lady named Felicia, and we call her Fishy, which is cool because the ichthus that the church uses sometimes, you know, the fish emblem. So that's kind of where she gets her name from. But she started before I got here. She was coming to church. She was coming to church basically because she was worried that we were going to do something to hurt her brothers. She was looking out she didn't want to be there. She didn't like going to church, but she loved her brothers, so she wanted to make sure that nothing happened to them. And by the time I got there, when I met her, I got a call from a cousin that I knew, her cousin, and he was over at her house, and he sent me a text saying, "Can you come get us? Because all the adults in this house have been drinking all day, and it's getting pretty ugly." And I just got here. I didn't know what to do, but I went over and I picked up the cousin and the brothers and Fishy, and that's kind of when I first met Fishy. And she was embarrassed. You know, she was not happy that I was there. She wasn't, you know, but she got in the car and I drove them to a house where things were a little bit calmer. And then, you know, she was in about the 10th grade, I think then, 9th or 10th grade. She started coming to youth group, and we got to know each other. And a few years ago, she graduated high school back in 2014, I think. A few years after that, she decided she wanted to go to Indian Bible College in Flagstaff, Arizona. And so she graduated last spring, and now she's working as my assistant, and she's about to take my job, which has been the plan. So, but she stepped up as young. She used to hide when it was time to do work. You'd be like, "Okay, Fishy, we need to go out and clean the dishes, or we need to and where's Fishy? We don't know." And a couple times we'd taken off and left her, and we had to go back and get her. So she wasn't the most responsible person in the world, but now she's leading our youth and the young ladies in our youth group and doing a really great job. Another one that came up was a kid named Jyrone, and Gyrone's been to Young Life Camp a couple, 2-3 times, and last time was one of our leaders. And Jyrone he was a handful. The first time I met Jyrone, he had a rock in his hand and was about to throw it at me, and he was so mad. He was red and crying and shaking. He's about 8 or 9 years old, and so he would be embarrassed if he heard me tell that story. But he would come to youth group and he would talk the whole time. We would send him. The way we deal with kind of disciplining the kids if they can't behave is we send them home. And we do that kind of this. We have this speech that we don't get angry, or we don't yell, we don't fuss. Well, look, we want you to be here. We want everybody to be here, but you don't want to be here, obviously, because you don't want to follow the rules. So we're going to send you home and let you try again next week. And we do that with Jyrone about every other week. And then he graduated high school just before COVID, so I guess that was like 2020. And we were like, Gyrone's graduating? Really? And we're really proud of him. And now he's working. He probably was in that video somewhere. He was running that roofing crew on top of the roof. All these adults from Tennessee and Mississippi. He was running that crew, supervising all that work. And that's really cool and great. And I'm going to run out of time with all these kids. I love talking about these kids. The last one I'll talk about is Tiana, who came to our very first youth group meeting. Our first youth group meeting we had back in the summer of 2009. We had 4 kids, and we've gotten as high as like 95 at times that come to the youth meeting. Right now we're around 60. We're still kind of coming back from COVID. But the first one, there was 4 kids, and Tiana was one of them. And Tiana's grew up in foster care. She's a lady that's taken care of her for a long time and done a really good job, single mom. And she started the church when she was really little. When Chris and Mary first came out, she lived with Chris and Mary for a while. And now she's our children's ministry director. And so one of the things that we really stress with Sacred Road is the Bible calls it equipping the saints for ministry. We call it working ourselves out of a job. Like, we want these kids that grow up in the community and become part of to run the church. Like, it doesn't, you guys could probably imagine having a church in White Swan run by a guy from Alabama and Tennessee and Georgia. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but God's kingdom, anything can happen, right? But a church run by kids that grew up in that community, and you can see it with Tiana and Fishing Gyro. Like, they are the younger kids really look up to them, and they're like, I want to be like that. And so to finish up a little bit before Chris comes up, what all of them, they all hate, like, I'm not real comfortable, as you can probably tell with the microphone in my hand, they hate it. But they all got up at this celebration last week, and there were 4 others that I haven't been able to, don't have time to talk about, but they each, they didn't get into specifics, but they each shared that the way they grew up, they never imagined that they'd be working at a church, let alone working, let alone some of them surviving. Two of their moms have told me personally, I don't think he'd have made it, or she would have made it to this point if you guys hadn't been part of their life. And so, and we're not done. Like, that's the thing I think Chris is going to spend some time talking about. You know, they're thriving, they're growing, they're maturing, they're learning how to lead. That's can get pretty messy at times because they've not had a lot of examples about how to serve and be humble and lead without, getting angry about it. So I just, again, I'm thankful for you guys to listen to our story and hear about what's going on. And I love these kids, and I'm real proud. I love, like I said, I could be up here for 3 hours. You guys don't want that, but I could be up here for 3 hours talking about these kids. So I'm going to let Chris talk a little bit about where things are headed, and then I guess we could take some questions. I set my alarm so I wouldn't go on forever.
Okay. Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, I'll just take a few minutes, and then we can take some questions if you'd like. I would encourage you to check out our website. It's sacredroadministries.com. You can learn a lot more there. It's kind of newly redesigned, so it's better than ever. Also, if you go to YouTube, you can find videos of the work the teams do. But there's also videos from what happens in December around Christmas time. When my wife and I, Mary is my wife's name, when we first moved to the reservation, that first Christmas rolled around, and it was I don't know if you remember the winter of 2003, but that's the one. And it got down to negative 16 that winter. I remember we have a pump house, and it froze, and we were from Alabama, wasn't used to any of that. But the first Christmas rolled around, and we had a Christmas party for the children that we had started reaching out to. And in the very beginning, what we did was we went into the housing projects. It was just me and my wife, and then our 4 kids. Our oldest was 9, our second was 8, our third was 6, and our youngest was 5. And we told them, our kids, we said, when we go and do Kids Club, we want you to find a kid that's maybe 2 years younger than you are, and make sure they're safe the whole time we're there, best you can. And if they're not, come get me. I'll try to help. Make sure they have fun, and also make sure if you get a chance to talk to them about Jesus or pray with them, then do that. And amazingly, from the very first day, our kids embraced that and did that. One of the things we told them before we left Alabama is we don't believe God's just calling me or me and Mom. He's calling our whole family to move to White Swan and to love folks. And that means you guys too. You're going to have chances to love people that will be scared of me because I'm a big white guy, but they may interact with you instead. And so, yeah, the kids took us up on that and did that the whole time. They're all grown now and have finished college and all that. But the first Christmas party rolled around, and we had 50 children there at the Christmas party. I remember there was one teenager from the community. She was 15, and we did all kind of fun things. We played games, and I think we decorated Christmas cookies. Most of the kids had never done that before. We made Christmas cards. They did that so they could take them home, give them to grandma or somebody. And then it came time for the Christmas story, and so they got a snack, and everybody settled down, and I was going to tell the Christmas story. And so I asked all the kids, how many of you know why we celebrate Christmas? And nobody raised their hand, not a single one. The 15-year-old girl finally raised her hand, and she said, is that when Jesus died on the cross? Was it Christmas? And I said, no, it's about Jesus, but not the cross. That's Good Friday and Easter. So I got to be the first person to ever tell all these little kids the real meaning of Christmas, the real story. And so often in those days, we would tell Bible stories, Jonah and the whale, Noah and the ark, all that. The kids would come up to us afterwards and say, is that real? Did that really happen? They'd never heard these stories before. And sometimes, I remember one time that even happened with an 83-year-old man who was an old rodeo guy who came to Bible study. And what he told me was, he said, I've always really been interested in the Bible, but I never learned how to read, so I can't read it for myself. And I remember he was really funny. He said, I try to listen to those TV preachers, but they don't make any sense to me. But I was telling about when Paul got converted on the road to Damascus, and he was this old guy, 83 years old, about to fall out of his chair. I mean, he was literally sitting on the edge of his chair because he had never heard that story before. And there have just been so many opportunities like that to be the first person to share something like that with people who've never heard it before. But yeah, so if you go to YouTube, there's videos that show Christmas. We're able to reach out to a lot of different Native communities at Christmas time, sometimes as many as 13 different reservations or Native communities, like Georgeville down toward the Columbia River, Celilo Village. We go down there every time. We just sent a full-time team to Warm Springs, Oregon. We've been trying to do that for years, and finally, I got chills thinking about it. I'm so excited because they reached out to us. Warm Springs, their tribal council, heard about what we were doing in White Swan about 17 years ago, and they contacted us and said, what do we need to do down here in Warm Springs to get your people to come down here, to work down here too? And the lady that was calling me, she actually said, our people here need to experience the same hope and the light and the love that you guys are sharing with the people in White Swan. So what has to happen for you to send people to us? And so I really didn't know. We didn't have anybody on staff then. Again, it was just me and my wife. And I said, I'm not sure, but we're going to figure this out. We're going to get some people down there. And so sure enough, we've been sending teams every summer and trying to get full-time people. And we finally did just this spring. And it's taking off like a rocket down there. They're doing Young Life in 2 locations down there. They're working with a couple of different churches that have Native pastors, and they're coming alongside them. And so that's exciting. Tomorrow, a big group of us are actually headed over to Lapway, Idaho, to do ministry at their Boys and Girls Club. And we'll do the same kind of kids clubs that we do in White Swan. We do it at the Boys and Girls Club in Lapway and, of course, down in Warm Springs. So that's really one of the goals now is as we raise up these young Native leaders, we put them in positions where they can lead and give them the opportunity, and we're spreading out to other places. In Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, there's 60 reservations. There's about 120 communities like White Swan, and I don't think there's 10 healthy churches out there. I mean, it's almost like an unreached people group right here in the Pacific Northwest. 2 weeks ago, I was in Anchorage and visiting a church there, and their pastor, I don't know if Chuck knows this, he offered me a full-time job up there, and I said no. I said, I'm not ready to go anywhere yet, but we want to help you guys. And he said, my church is so fired up about reaching out to Native people in Anchorage. We want to figure out how to effectively reach Native people in the city, but also there's 250 villages, and a lot of them don't have churches. And we want to figure out which ones need healthy churches in them, and we want to try to reach out to them too. And then he said something really surprising. He said, we also have a really big budget to work with. I was like, well, that's what you don't hear normally, you know. And And every other person I met in his church was a pilot. So they're all ready to fly us out to wherever. So that's something that we're wanting to do. We're actually sending 2 of our church staff people to Africa this summer. They're going to Kenya on their first mission trip. But I'm hoping to take Native leaders into the villages in Alaska as well in the near future and do outreach there. So we're hoping to spread out. I'm hoping by the time I check out, I'm really hoping that we have a Native church planting network in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and even reaching into Alaska. That's kind of the dream at this point. And I really believe the Lord's going to do that. We didn't mention numbers. On a typical Sunday morning, we have 100 people, just a regular Sunday. We actually have 28 people on staff, full-time and part-time now. Half of the staff is Native. And like Chuck said, we're all of us non-natives, we're trying to work ourselves out of our jobs and equip the saints for ministry and raise up young leaders. Chuck also didn't tell you the number of teenagers we had last summer working alongside these teams that are roofing and painting was 36 teenagers from his youth group that were out there every day, every single chance they had, they were out, those 36. There were others that kind of were in and out, but there were 36 that went every single day throughout the summer that they could go and paint and roof and pick up trash in the heat and everything else. And so there's a whole crew of young Native leaders that are stepping up in White Swan, and I think that community is going to be transformed in the next 10 to 15 years. You're going to see the results of that. So that's something you could be praying for too. Thank you, guys.
Chris and Chuck, thank you for sharing your story, and then about the work that you're doing with the kids and the families there. Go ahead. And then we have a speaker gift for you both. We've got some Southwest Rotary water bottles for you. So thank you very much. One of the announcements that got missed, we wanted to do a announcement. Christy wanted to just share a little bit about an update on her mom and Bob. So Christy, I'm going to hand you the mic. You can just kind of stay back here and share.
So for those of you that don't know, my dad is Bob Knudsen. My mom was not feeling well on May 29th through that week. On June 2nd, she had a stroke. So it's in the base stem of the left side of her brain, which has affected the right side of her body. However, she's able to use her hands, and she's walking with a walker. She had, how many of you have had cold sores? It's a simplex virus that lives in your body. When my mom got sick with a UTI and had a high fever, that raged on to viral encephalitis and viral meningitis. So she's got swelling on the brain as well as the stroke. She is getting up, which we all attest her getting up to Ryan Beckett, who said that if you don't get out of bed, I am bringing my trombone up. We told her this, and shortly after, she was up walking, so I'm sure that's why. She does walk with the help of a walker. She's non-communicative. She does not talk very much. She's confused on who we are. So my dad, it's really kind of cute because he always goes in and says, "Hi, Danny, this is Bob, your husband." And so actually she smiled this morning really big. So we have pictures up there so she knows she's still in the hospital. We're not taking any visitors just because she's so confused on to whom we all are. Other than that, we're just waiting to see where she goes from here. The only rehab places that she might be able to go are either Spokane, Tri-Cities, or Wenatchee. So Wenatchee would be fine because my sister lives there. So, and my sister's off for the summer, so she'll be able to help. But other than that, she's just plugging along. It's baby steps. Dad's doing pretty good. He's very stoic, so he would never tell you if he wasn't doing well. I'm doing all phone calls, and if you email them, I'm the one who's answering you because I'm trying to take that from my dad because it would take forever for him to henpeck the answers back. So other than that, we've got people feeding him. We've now split the days, so I go in the afternoons. My dad goes in the mornings. So that gives us both a little bit of rest and be able to keep some normalcy in our lives. And so well wishes are very, very appreciated. And we thank you guys all for your prayers. Keep them coming. We hope we get somewhere going soon. But right now, there's no date on when she'll be able to get out or what's going to happen next. So it's just a hurry up and wait is what we're doing. Thanks.
Thanks, Christy. And then if there's anything that we can do as the club. Will you share that with me? Or okay, thank you. All right, so with that, I want to thank Corday and Dave for being our greeters and introduction of guests, Lisa for your invocation, Frank for your Sergeant of Arms, and again, Chris and Chuck, thank you for your shedding a light on what's happening over in White Swan and the work that you're doing there. So with that, our meeting is adjourned. If you'd like your Southwest shirt, I'll be in the corner.